Hello, my name is Hailey Mount. I'm a graduate writing consultant at the University of Wyoming Writing Center. And so I have a background in writing and an interest, obviously, in writing, but I study in the sciences where I study plant ecology. So I'm very passionate about this connection and this interdisciplinary approach to writing in these two very different fields. And I'll start with setting up our different ways of knowing. So typically, when we think about the sciences versus humanities, we'll think about these very different ways of knowing, where the sciences might help us to know objective truths, but there's no place to be a person in there or to put your opinions and thoughts in the science. On the other side, humanities or our personal essays or something like that, we might not think there's a lot of place for objective reasoning and facts and that sort of thing to fall in there nicely. And this dichotomy in our ways of thinking falls into our ways of writing. So in the sciences, you have a preference for things to be brief and concise and as clear as possible, and you have very structured writing conventions. Well, on the other hand, in the humanities, you might see things that are more verbose or poetic or that paint imagery and don't necessarily have a point, maybe. They may be amorphous or things might appear in different places. And loving both of these types of writing, I've found that they are not complementary or not contradictory, but that they're complementary ways of knowing. So every form of inquiry has a method, and sometimes embracing another method can reveal new insights in our own work. That's a quote from a book talking a lot about this dichotomy and how we can break it down. And so by understanding that these different ways of knowing drive these different schools of thought, we can find places to impart the other way of knowing. So what I mean by this is we can start, there are ways that we can rethink science writing in a more humanities perspective. So, one thing would be thinking about how your work is being perceived and what is its impact. So, even if you're not a scientific writer, what are you perceiving out of the work? What are you getting out of it? Are you understanding its impact? Are you seeing its purpose? These are things that someone even not in the sciences should be able to tell in your scientific writing and what can help us remember the point of our scientific writing. Similarly, science is storytelling. So we've really separated science from this way of telling stories and telling the story, but if you're not seeing the path through the science, through the narrative, through their science, then it's going to be really hard to understand the science. There's a lot of overlap there. And so this means that we can use literary devices like varying sentence length or narrative patterns to enhance the messages that are in our scientific papers and make them more engaging and easy to read, which is, yeah, more objective and easy to read. What science offers the humanities on the other side are these ways of understanding how much can we put into one piece of writing, understanding the cognitive load that our readers can take is some science that we can apply to our writing to make it impact differently. Similarly, like argumentative techniques or debate techniques, sort of these patterns and ways of achieving a certain goal or response from someone that you can impart in your creative writing that come from these science-based techniques. Similarly, one of my favorite things about this connection is talking about this folk experience that we all have. We all understand that if we drop a pencil, it's going to fall. And so in that way, we can use our descriptions of gravity and those sorts of descriptions to enhance our metaphors. Basically, we all understand these innate feelings and emotions and societal roles, and you can use them in your metaphors to make them more clear. Basically, a metaphor that is accurate and based in truth in the world is going to ring really strongly, and make your creative writing more impactful and more clear as well. So in the Writing Center, I think we sit in a wonderful area where we get to, no matter our background, we interact with all of these different pieces of writing. And it's important to remember that different styles of writing have their um, background and purpose for a reason. And they have their schools of thought that they sit in, but that doesn't mean that we can't apply these other schools of thought to make all of our writing more engaging and understandable. So if you're helping someone with science writing, you can use narrative forms and include some of that human emotion to better convey the ideas. And on the other side, you can use really accurate descriptions and cognitive science techniques to be more tactical with your creative writing and how it might impact a reader. Thank you.